This video is brought to you by Squarespace. Welcome back, everybody. It's time once again to do some viewer mail. This is all stuff that's featured, that's been sent in by viewers like you. Normally, we do a lot of books and zines, but I want to start today a little bit different. I've got a print that I want to share with you. This comes to us from Michael Healy. I'm going to pull this up so you can see it better, but Michael writes in here that this image was taken in Duluth, Minnesota, of the Duluth North Pier Lighthouse, taken at 30 seconds at F22 in the fall of 2018. What is so special about this photograph to me is that this was the second to last trip that I would take up to Duluth with my oldest brother, David. I'm going to paraphrase a lot of this because it's a very personal letter, but David passed away from cancer. They were very close, and this picture kind of represents that. He stopped going up to Duluth and to the North Shore of Minnesota shortly thereafter, but has recently been inspired to start shooting again. And I want to honor this, and I want to say thanks to Michael for sending this in. This is very special, and I think that if your brother were alive, he'd want you to be shooting. Actually, one other thing that I want to note about this, what's really cool is this is a long exposure, so 30 seconds, and you can see like people look like smoke going through here, but these birds are perfectly still. This reflection down here of the lighthouse is absolutely fabulous. Man, you should be really proud of this. This is really nice work. All right, so next up is this book, which comes to us from Mitchell Austin. This is called Perspective. This is a collection of images taken from Japan. He did not include a note in here, but I will read you a little bit of the foreword while I show you some images here. Mitchell writes, "As photographers, we have the capability to convey our perspective in this world, to show the good, the bad, and unpleasant. We bend light to showcase endless amounts of creativity with the right muse, and the bounds of visual expression exceed more than anyone can fathom. Photography's expression is not only intimate in the eyes of the viewing guest, but holds an emotional memory for one who snapped the photo. Through my years of lived experience, Japan is my second home, and I invite you to see my perspective on this impossible mission." So Mitchell, this is a really interesting book. I think you have some absolutely beautiful work in here. It's interesting that your style kind of goes between two different things here. You've got these long landscape panoramic shots, and then you've also got some vertical shots as well. The interesting thing here, and actually you've got a couple that are almost vertical panorama, which is kind of cool. I love the Japan stuff in here. It's all Japan, but I love the landscapes. They are very Japan. They speak well to that. And I think your color work is really nice as well. The only thing that I would suggest on something like this is a tough project to include all in one book. I think if you, depending on how much work you've done in each one of these styles, you could just do a book of the vertical shots, or you could just do a book of the panoramas. That might work. Or I think another solution that would work really well, and the only reason I say this is because when you go to the vertical shots, they tend to be a little far apart, so I don't get that much of a dialogue between them, and that's just because you've got a long landscape orientation page that you're working with and you're centering everything up. You might consider going with a smaller format or even a vertical format book. That way the vertical images work, or you could do panoramas as spreads. And you've done one of these this is called a lay flat book that Blurb and a couple other publishers offer, and the whole idea is that the gutter really is non-existent. It will lay flat on a table. So with something like this, if you went with a vertical format, you're not going to get the gutter going on. In other words, a big crease in any of these images. And I think that might be kind of interesting to look at. So just a couple things I would consider, but it is a beautiful book. The only thing I want to do is see more, which is a nice compliment I can give you. So awesome job, Mitchell. Next up is this zine, which comes to us from Stephen Lawson, who's from Glasgow, Scotland. It's called Neon Rain, the City at Night. This is an interesting, colorful collection of images of basically, they're abstracts of water on the hood of his car. I'm going to read you a little bit of his intro here. About this project, these images were made through the winter of 2022/23 in and around Glasgow, Scotland. The project's origin lies in street photography, or more accurately, in a break from street photography. When driven into my car by heavy rain, I began to notice the abstract patterns created by rain falling on my windscreen and the headlights and the street signs. Once I had settled on a technique to record these beautiful splashes of color by focusing on the rivulets of water running down the glass rather than the distant lights themselves, the Neon Rain project was spawned. The technical challenges were many, waiting for the right amounts of rain so that the water didn't simply wash straight down the screen, finding different colored lights and locations where I could safely park for a length of time, contorting myself in my small car to match up the rain and lights, but at least I managed to stay warm and dry as I created this work. Stephen Lawson, 2023. All right, so Stephen, this is a really nice zine that you put together, and I really like this experimental direction. I'm a big fan of abstracts, so I like what you've done here. I think this is a wonderful study of color and texture, and I think you've done a really good job with that. And as you've kind of said in the About section on here, that this is a new technique that you're working on, and I would encourage you to take this further. And one thing I want to just give you some creative criticism on, and this gets difficult when you're dealing with things that are highly abstract, is it becomes graphics at some point, and you're dealing with a lot of patterns, and you want your photography to have some kind of payoff to it. And I think that while a lot of these are really beautiful, you don't really have that. So every time I turn the page, I know I'm going to see another abstract. And I think you've tried to break that up by using some quotes. There's a Dolly Parton quote here. Not a big fan of quotes running across the image itself. I'd rather see just an empty page with maybe a quote on it if you want to go that route. But I would actually encourage you to stay with this technique and work with it a little more and deal with the whole aspect of reflections here and what you can start incorporating in. I think one of the biggest differences between abstract painting, let's say, and abstract photography is abstract painting is created, it's all done by hand. It's applied to the canvas, and photography tends to be a little more subtractive as a process. In other words, you're deciding what to show, what to crop out. You know this through going through the project. It gets weird positions sometimes, make sure the lighting's just right. And one thing I do love is I love your study of color as you go out throughout here. There's beautiful reds, blues, big bold colors. That's something I really like. But I think with photography, you need to have a little bit of element of realism in there that could be abstracted. And I think one thing that could be interesting on this is if you started, maybe you still use the hood of the car, but try to get reflections in that of what you might see reflected and abstracted in there. I think that would give you a little bit more of that payoff. Or maybe you move your medium to maybe windows in the rain or something like that. But I don't want to see you abandon this because I think this is a really strong start. The book layout works. I mean, it's consistent throughout your modern typography and all. It's not exactly what I would have chosen personally, and I'm not really into type running across an image. But I think you've got a really good start, so I would keep it up, and I would love to see more, man. This is an awesome beginning to something that could be a really interesting abstract project. So awesome work. Keep it up, man. All right, so a couple more things that we've got here. This is a beautiful book that was done in Iran, which is amazing, and another one of really interesting street photography. I'm going to get to these in a second, but real quick, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor today, who are the awesome folks over at Squarespace. How easy is it to build an amazing website in a matter of minutes? Squarespace has you covered. It's dead simple. Head over to Squarespace, hit Get Started. You can start by using Squarespace Blueprint AI and SEO tools, which will give you an impressive website in no time. Something unique because, you're not like other websites. Give your site a name. Next, you can build your homepage. We'll start with a few preset layouts just to get us going. Want to sell products like prints, books, maybe you make a zine? Well, you can feature those on your homepage. Create a few more sections if you want. Let's also give it a color palette. There's a whole bunch to choose from, and just get us started. We can change this all later. Next, let's select the typography choices. Welcome to your website. Everything is set up and it's all ready for you to customize. Squarespace is built on Fluid Engine, the next generation of website design. Select Edit, and Fluid Engine allows you to drag, place, and resize any element on the page. You can snap these to a grid, you can make them float on top of one another, you can freeform however you like. You can even preview and adjust how the site looks on either desktop or mobile. The layouts are independent. Of course, you'll want a portfolio for your work. Creating an image gallery is as easy as dropping a folder of images on your web browser. Once uploaded, you can drag to resort, customize the look, and Squarespace writes all of the code for you. Everything just works and it looks fabulous. Want to sell your own prints, books, or zines? Flexible payments allow you to make the checkout process absolutely seamless when you sell products or services. You can accept credit cards, PayPal, Apple Pay, and in eligible countries, you can offer customers the option to buy now and pay later with Afterpay and ClearPay. You should try Squarespace for yourself. It's absolutely free, no credit card required. Just go to squarespace.com/AOP, sign up for that free trial. If you decide Squarespace is right for you, I can save you an additional 10% on your order by using offer code AOP on checkout. That's right, the code is AOP. So stop procrastinating, go build your website today. And I want to give a special shout out and thanks to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. All right, so next up is this beautiful little book. I really like this. This is all black and white photography that was shot in Iran. This is called Analog Iran. It comes to us from Ali MC, who is a photographer and writer from Melbourne, Australia. And there's no note in here, really. He just has the intro here, but I'm going to read you just a little bit of his foreword. When you title a book as audaciously as Analog Iran, readers expect great things. After all, isn't this a book about an entire country, one that most people are never going to visit? Well, yes and no. In some ways, this book is about Iran, mostly depicting a series of urban vignettes. In many other ways, this book is about a mood, the mood of a country under severe religious, economic, and political pressure. Any photography project is, of course, a subjective selection of pictures created by an artist, And what left out of the frame is often more important than what is included. And that being the case, analog Iran could of course never be a complete representation of an entire nation. Instead, this small book captures a moment. Opium addicts in dugout graves, the deceased peering down from alley walls, the all-pervasive Ashura black, the worn expression of the working poor, defiant women and leather jacket rebel youth, devout pilgrims and bored conscripts, blurred images in black and white that conjure up cinematic dreamscape from which I never fully awoke. A taxi driver once told me as he navigated down the hustle of downtown Tehran, young Iranians are old inside. Perhaps analog Iran is exactly that. All right, so Ali, my man, this is absolutely beautiful. I love the fact that you went black and white for this entire thing. I think it delivers a really specific mood. I think you have a really interesting style of photography, and I love the images that are in here. I love the fact that you didn't go with what was going to be expected for a book like this. You went clearly for the unexpected, and I love that a lot of your photographs, this is one of my favorite spreads in here, have this aura of mystery about them. They leave the viewer wanting to see something that maybe isn't completed in the photo, and your quote in the very beginning when you talked about what often is more important of what's left out of a photograph than what's in. And that is a deep topic. And I will talk about that sometime in its own video, but it's always been something that's fascinated me. What is left out versus what's left in. And sometimes what's left in doesn't have a truth to it. And anyway, I'm going to get on a tangent that goes way beyond your book. But I really think this is beautiful, and thank you for sharing it. There's some wonderful images in here. And my favorite work of yours in here, some of these blurry things where you've got this guy biking down an alley, there's a sense of disorientation that you get from the blurriness, and also the sense of mystery, and like, where's he going? What's down this corridor? What am I looking at? Beautiful book. This is absolutely fabulous. And if you guys are interested in getting books from anybody that I'm showing today, I will have links to everybody's websites, etc., in the description below this video. So make sure you check out their work, support your colleagues, and Ali, thank you for sending this. This is awesome. All right, so next up is this little zine, which comes to us from a gentleman named Michael Gerstein, who included a very quick little ripped out note, which reads, "Hey Ted, wanted to pass along a copy of my new zine in case you want to feature it on your channel. Hopefully enjoy either way. Cheers, Michael." So Michael, I do want to feature it on my channel. I think this is really well done. I like how simple this is. I love the whole concept and the title, The City I Dream Of. And I think this is echoed really well throughout a lot of these images and spreads. I think it is very trippy. The only thing I would like to see that I would encourage you on is to just amp this up even further. You've got some of these that are just really wild. Like I think at the very beginning, this whole thing with the car with the Wizard of Oz characters in it is just really unexpected and very bizarre. And then I love some of the way the spreads work in here. You've got these guys carrying a mattress and somebody with a painting. There's this really interesting play with the dialogue between images that face each other. And I think this is really well done. I think that it gets inconsistent in spots, and I think I would like to see that carried out. Another good one, the school kids, and then this double exposure over here. And she's putting something over her eye like she's looking at something. Anyway, it's a really cool concept. I think you've done a really great job. And, you know, again, I say this with a compliment to a lot of people. I just want to see more of it, which I think is really cool. The smoking man and then the feathers from the pillow coming out over here. Really nicely done and very interesting. And I will link up to Michael and everybody else in the show description below. And if you have any questions, drop them in the comments. I will catch you guys in the next video. Until then, later.